We have two great speakers for you today. We have Caroline, who is moving into Leah's role. She'll be our new head dietitian. And then we also have Carly, a student from UAB, and they are going to talk to us about mood and food. So I'll give it over to Caroline.
Thank you guys for coming and for being here. Like Marianne said, I'm Caroline Kirkpatrick. You've probably seen me like power walking down the halls, charging over people, making sharp corners. I think I've run into Dr. Workman a few times, plowing through doors in the stairwell. But I'm around here. You find me in the kitchen, ICU, third floor, kind of wherever. I pop up everywhere. But Marianne said we're lucky to have Carly here, who's a UAB dietetic intern. She's been with us, gosh, 2.5 weeks maybe, another 2.5 weeks left. So we're trying to help mold her into a future dietitian. But we're here to talk about food and your mood, especially during winter time. I know it's very pertinent to kind of be aware of what we're eating, because we have a tendency to stay inside, to not be as active, and so food takes a much bigger role often than in the summer times in our lives, where we're more active, running around, we're sweating, burning more calories. Not so much when we're waking up and it says 17 degrees outside and my UAB alert's going off at 3 in the morning, waking me up, warning me for ice storms. So better to be a little conscious of what we're putting on our bodies. So I'm going to quick touch on 3 moods that I experience a lot in the winter, which is fatigue, depression, and irritability, and kind of how we can use our diet to help kind of turn those moods, turn those frowns upside down. So the first one, fatigue. We feel sluggish, we feel tired, we're not moving around as much. Well, that is linked to big iron deficiency and anemia, So what we want to do to help counteract that is increase some of the iron that we get in our body. So it's a good idea when we're feeling sluggish, when we have no motivation, is to get some more iron in. We can get that from 2 main sources. We got our plant iron, which is our heme, and our animal iron, which is our heme, and our plant sources, which is our non-heme iron. Our heme iron we get from animal sources is absorbed more readily in our body. It's more biologically available. So the best sources of those are going to be from red meats, which is, beef, cow, and then from our dark poultry. So things like dark chicken, dark turkey, kind of the darker meats are going to have the best sources of iron in them. Still, we want to be mindful of our health. We want to trim the fat when we eat it. We want to look for the leaner cuts, but red meat's really going to be the best source of that. We can also get iron from plant sources. Those are going to be things like spinach, broccoli, beans, peas. All those are good sources of iron too. We don't absorb them as much, so we want to be conscious when we eat to try and get a little vitamin C with it too. That helps the absorption of iron. So when we eat things like spinach and broccoli, try and eat it with a high source of vitamin C. It's going to be like citrus foods, some peppers, something like that. So that's going to help lift our mood, make us not feel as fatigued. Another emotion that we get a lot is depression, especially again in the wintertime. So to help combat this, we're going to try and increase our intake of omega-3s. Omega-3s are really good with brain development. It's good, it kind of works, it gets in our body, it helps open up our cellular membranes to kind of let the good vibes, the good thoughts travel to our brain. So let's try and get a good intake of omega-3s. We get those from some of our fattier fish, like salmon, tuna is a good source of omega-3s. Nuts and seeds are high in omega-seeds. Flaxseed is a great source of omega-3. I use that all the time. Not so much when you cook, it kind of denatures a little bit when you cook it, but you can add it to smoothies. I make little protein balls and I add flaxseed to it. So that's a great source of omega-3. And then, our oil is olive oil is a good source of omega-3. So that's definitely doing that. Going to open up our chemical receptors in our brain, going to lighten our mood a little bit more. And then I like to kind of throw this point out too, kind of you are what you eat a little bit with your depression. So like my example, if you eat a big inflated greasy bag of salty potato chips, you're probably going to feel like a big bag of salty potato chips. So be mindful when we eat, kind of lift your mood, eat something good for you, you feel good for you, and it'll definitely kind of help ease some of those winter blues. And the last one that my husband can attest to is irritability. So So when you get hangry, if everyone knows that term, that's a good source. When you're hungry and you're angry, it turns into hangry. So wintertime, we get irritable a whole lot. And the first thing I kind of do when I start getting a little hangry is think back, say, am I eating regular? We know we don't eat regular, our blood sugars drop, we get moody, we get irritable. So it's important to eat regularly. And then also, kind of a quick little fix we can do if we're feeling moody and irritable is to increase our carbohydrate consumption. Carbohydrates work in our body to help produce serotonin, which is that feel-good chemical in our brain. So it's gonna lift our mood. It's actually gonna, serotonin helps suppress our appetite a little bit. So if we keep kind of that good, steady, every 4 hours, a little influx of food in our bodies, it will make us stop from overeating and having those big cravings for food. We still wanna be mindful though, carbohydrates, I'm not talking about, you know, just mac and cheese and pixie sticks, but we want to look for those complex carbs. So those whole grains or fruit or beans and peas. Those are going to be good sources of complex carbohydrate that's going to help produce a little serotonin, which is going to help us feel good and kind of get through some of that winter irritability, smooth our mood a little bit. Pass it on to Carly.
All right, so how Caroline kind of talked about sort of like treating your mood with food, I'm gonna go a little bit the other way and talk about how to tell if you're really hungry or if you're just eating based on how you're feeling. So kind of over time, there are some different things that may affect your ability to be able to tell if you really are hungry or if you're just eating based on your mood. So like your eating habits, if you get into the habit of skipping breakfast because you're feeling rushed in the mornings, or maybe grabbing fast food in the afternoons because you don't want to go home and spend time cooking, repeated dieting, stress and other emotions like how Caroline talked about can definitely play a role in being able to tell if you're truly hungry or not. And then food associations, which is kind of like the eating habits, but things like if you always associate having popcorn with a movie, then even if you're not hungry, you're gonna feel like when you're watching a movie, you might need some popcorn. So it's important to try to remember the true hunger cues. So these are just some ways to tell if you really are truly hungry and not just like, oh, I'm feeling kind of bored or feeling a little down today, let me try to comfort myself with some food. So I'm sure everyone's experienced these, the stomach rumbles when you know that you're really kind of starving and need some food pretty quickly, dizziness, lightheadedness, difficulty concentrating, fatigue, like how Caroline talked about, mood changes, the hanger, I know that happens to me a lot, and then nausea and headaches also. And a good way to kind of test if you're feeling like you want to eat something but you're not too sure if you're really hungry or if you're just trying to, you know, satisfy something based on your mood, you can ask yourself a couple questions. And the first one that I like to kind of assess is what's eating me? Like, am I stressed? Am I bored? Am I sad and just need something comforting? And then if you decide that you're really not hungry, you're just kind of feeling moody or something, then you can see maybe there's something else that I can do for a little while instead of going right to food. So maybe like taking a walk or talking with a friend, just trying to get your mind off something else until you decide that you really are hungry and it's definitely time to eat. And then, of course, look out for those true hunger cues if you can't decide. And then another thing I wanted to touch on kind of deals with hydration, because in the brain, the hunger and the thirst signals are controlled in the same part of your brain, and sometimes it can be kind of hard to differentiate the two. So a lot of the times if you're feeling hungry, you could just really need some water. So a good first step is to drink a tall glass of water and then wait about 20 minutes. And that's going to give enough time for your stomach to kind of report back to your brain and say, hey, that was great, I was just really thirsty and now I'm good and I can wait until I need to eat again. Or stomach could say, that water was great, but I still need some food. So that's a good little trick if you're feeling hungry, but again, aren't too sure if you really need some food yet. And then another thing I wanted to touch on was cravings. And cravings don't always mean you're hungry, but I'm sure everyone's experienced those cravings. I know when I do, it's like I'm craving chocolate and I need it right now. And cravings can come from a couple different things. Sometimes it's physiological and your body can crave things that it needs, and we'll kind of go into that on the next slide. Or it can be psychological based on your mood, habits, and everything like that. So this is a little chart, and it's on one of those handouts that's going around. It looks a little bit different, but it's kind of a cool thing that relates what you're craving to what your body kind of needs. So sometimes when you're craving chocolate, it really means that you need a little bit more magnesium in your body. And then that chart will give some examples of the different foods. So even though you really want chocolate, you don't really want to go for vegetables or fruits, that might be what you really need and could help regulate those cravings if it's something that you're getting a craving for a lot of the time. And then these are just some tips to help handle cravings when they hit you. Like how we kind of talked about, try to put it off for a little while, assess if you're really hungry, drink some water, wait about 20 minutes. Distract yourself, try to take your mind off that craving. You can also plan out your snacks, that's a good one. Maybe like portion out some healthy snacks just to keep with you during the day so you're not all of a sudden hit with a craving that you have to go get a milkshake right now. Instead you can grab what you already have with you. And then you can also choose some alternatives for your craving. So if you're craving something crunchy like potato chips, maybe doing some kind of like crispy vegetable that's still going to give you that crunch that you might be looking for, but is going to be a little bit of a healthier option. If you want something sweet, maybe going for a piece of fruit instead of like a candy bar. And then another tip that I like is buying single servings. So if you decide that you're really craving ice cream, instead of going to the store and buying a whole carton of ice cream and then having it at home, you can stop by like your favorite ice cream store and just grab one serving and kind of knock that craving out and then not have the rest of it sitting around. Or you can go to the store and buy like a bulk size thing of whatever you're craving and then kind of portion it out and just have individual portions set aside so when you are craving that food you don't go crazy and eat the whole bag of potato chips instead of just what you need. And that is it.